Margaret Karen Corla, and I welcome the opportunity to speak on this. I'm not going to claim that I would be as knowledgeable as a lot of people that would live on the coastal areas about fishing, but my analysis of a lot of this is, in my opinion, driven by bad EU policy down through the years. We seem to be going into as a country, but Europe as a combination of nations, that we want the big monopoly to do everything. And I say that when I look at, one time ago, a builder building houses was able to go up to the council and tender for 3, 4, 5 houses and build it. And now, if it's an area being done, the bonds they have won't be big enough, the turnover won't be big enough, and they're basically, unless you're the big builder that's getting your funding from somewhere out abroad, you're not considered because you happen to turnover. If you look at the HSE, it's gone down the same road. The one supplier to do all, the big guru that will have it all. If you look at roads right around the country, the thresholds of turnovers is unbelievable. If you look at Irish Water, there's, one time ago, group water schemes, we used to have a saying down the country, a tractor in the transport box, you had one for it, and a digger, and a couple of people. And now you're getting a region. And if your turnover isn't big enough for that, even though you might have done the jobs down through the years for the 100 houses, the 150 houses, or whatever, you are now too small, so you're being shoved into a corner that you're a subby. And you have to sub off them that's able to control a whole area. And what it appears to be under all EU legislation, that they want you to be dealing with one person, goes out to tender on that, goes on turnover, and bye-bye. And the sad reality of this, no more than in the fishing sector, that then we had companies that came from Spain and other parts of the world tendering for work here, that it wasn't very favourable, some of the outcomes of it, I'll put it that way. And it's leaving Irish people scratching their head. When you listen about the fishing and the Brexit deal and all of that, and what's some of the stuff being proposed, decommissioning is taking people away from the work they were at, to put it very simple. Decommissioning is people having to sell the boat they have, being offered a few measly pounds. And to remind you of the time of the beat in Ireland, where farmers were sold a pup, to put it very clearly. And why are we as a country constantly letting out or stopping doing things that give a living to people, but also in hindsight, when we look back, we say, geez, that was a bad idea, we should never have done that, we've left ourselves exposed. And case point would be that at the moment, have a look at Europe, we're like a little bird within the nest with our beaks open because we're waiting for gas, or we'll perish to death. We are in the line of fertiliser, the dead same. We are relying on countries that they're basically sparring with, the likes of Russia and that. They're trying to kick Russia into the mouth, but at the same time we want their gas. And there's tariffs put on things. And the whole exercise of what Europe is at the moment, I think has to be questioned. The only thing that the penny might have dropped with them is on the farming sector. And Minister, I've said before, I support you in your convergence. But in 00 or 99, it was punch as many bullocks as you could at 9 months and 18 months. And the more land you had and the more bullocks you had, the bigger your payment was. But the small fella or lady in a part of the country that had their 10 or 20 or 30 or 40 acres, that had their few cows, wouldn't have the money, first of all, to do this, and they ended up at the bottom of the ladder. And that's why we have lost so many farmers in the farming sector, because the poor devils, it became unviable. And we seem to now start, and it's not fair enough in my opinion, Europe seems to be driving this big commercial operator, the big commercial farmer, the big commercial fisherman, the big commercial builder, one of them in each sector, the way that sort of when the invoices comes in, you don't have to be looking at 40 little subbies that are torturing you or ringing you, you just look at one. And that's not the way that you build communities. When Europe started off, it was a community, the greatest thing that ever was. But we seem to be heading to what they want, or what they call a physical union. It's like marriage. It's either love or divorce, one or the other. And Europe needs to have a ferocious rethink, for the simple reason Ireland has one of the, I think actually the biggest fishing waters in Europe is owned by Ireland. And we seem to have got the worst part of that, not in your time, Minister, but before that, when the deal was being doctored out. We got a ferocious bad deal. And now with Brexit, and with the tightening that's coming in trying to basically share out the little bit of fish that's left in the waters that we're talking about, other countries are looking for it as well. We're being blocked from going over there. So our people in our waters with our fish is the big loser. And the sad part about it is, and as I say, I'm no expert in fishing, but I watch what's going on. I watched a ship that came from Australia and it fishing out in the waters. And to gulp more in 15 minutes than I'd say 200 fishing boats that we'd have gone out of our little ports. But the difference is that the 200 little fishing boats that goes out from our little ports is 200 families living in 200 areas, helping 200 communities and other people in business. And we don't seem to get this into our head. And I hate to hear the word decommission, because it's basically no more than the likes of Bordnamona. Just look at that. Bordnamona, the palaver comes out in the PR and all the BS, I call it. They'll talk about we created this and we created that and we created the other. Have a look how many was working 7 years ago, how many was looking today. That's how you add up whether people are better off or worse off. Not, well, we have this coming in and we're going to re-wet this and we're going to do this, that and the other. Absolutely BS. The gurus at media, what they can say is unbelievable. And I think, Minister, we have to stand up for the Irish fisher people. I was talking to Holly Kearns yesterday evening, and she's from a fishing area, small fishing boats, and she was saying the infrastructure that they need, they never got it to help them in their area. And we should make sure that, be it Donegal or be it down to Kinsale or wherever you want to go, or Wexford or all the different ports, that we give the infrastructure to the smaller communities to make sure that they'll be able to do what they can. And I'm listening to Deputy Collins talking about putting in a seat. It's a damnable thing if you have to go putting in a seat for someone else to join you to basically shaft you within in the boat. And I think, Minister, we have to stand up for rural communities on the periphery of, they're on the edge of, they're on the coast. They, in my opinion, are as important as someone in any other part of Ireland. And we have to watch that the likes of Europe isn't trying to basically bully us into situations to do a horse deal on something. Do you sacrifice one thing for the other? I know there will be always trading, but it's a sad day that if we own most of the fishing water that's in Europe, or the biggest area of it, I'll put it that way, and we're coming out with the worst part of the deal. And then you have to look at other things where fishermen, and I've seen it already in parts of the country, and everyone welcomes new technology and new stuff, but you liaise with people and work with them. I saw lobster pots and all of that where you were bringing in cables, and basically they were told you to get out of the way or we'll drive through you. That's not the way you work with people that has been in communities for years and years. And I would ask you, Minister, that some of these foreign ministers that barely have they haven't a pond in their areas, not a mind a bit of sea, that they shouldn't be entitled to be making decisions for us that has a big area. And, you know, we have a common travel area with the Brits for flying, and I'm damn sure that, you know, we can do something ourselves. Whatever about Europe, I always believe, look after your own and let the rest look after themselves, would be my honest opinion.
Thank you, Deputy.
And we need to make sure that we look after our fishermen and women around the country.
Thank you, Deputy.